Hi folks, Slick Slicers here. Now, last video I did on otter knives, I said it was my last video on otter knives, and I completely forgot that I had one more to show you, and that is this one here. Now, this is in the Sodbuster style, which is obviously very much more associated with perhaps with case knives, and a lot of American knives GC do, obviously a couple of these. The Sodbuster style tends to come in two sizes, the junior or small Sodbuster and the larger full-size version. This one's a Rough Rider, this one's a case. Now, the reason that Sodbuster name is so associated with case as another case is that in 1967 Case trademarked the term Sodbuster and Sodbuster Junior. These are Sodbuster Juniors. So anybody else that wants to call their knife a Sodbuster would theoretically have to pay them, but because it's a trademark, it's not a patent. Trademark, it doesn't expire. So there have been some innovative solutions to it. Some call it a work knife or a farm knife. I think GC call it a farm knife. Rough Rider call it a work knife. Others just play kind of games with the term. So this one here, which is a Carl Schliepper knife, bone handles, is they call it the Clodbuster. Clod of soil, a sod of soil, it's basically the same thing, but gets around that trademark issue fairly neatly. Now, the actual original style isn't American. The original style is I think 16th century German or Austrian. Germany didn't really exist around then, so it's not really fair to call it Germany, but it was a type of knife that was used by workers then. Now, they would have called it, I don't know the German word, but it basically translates as folding butcher. So in other words, they were looking at it as perhaps a game knife, a hunting knife, or something of that type, and it would be a fairly basic knife. Now, this particular one is, as I say, take that away, from Otter, and is made in Solingen. The basic pattern is broadly the same no matter where you get it from. So I mean, if you looked at case one, or if you looked at Rough Rider or whatever, it's this particular sort of shape that with sort of thin in the middle and the broad base. One thing that's also often common on them is you have a thing called a bird's eye rivet. This one here is a particularly good example, actually. So you have a rivet within a collar holding the blade in, so it's a particularly tough, solid pivot. Oddly, with case, when you step up to their sort of bone covers and so on, like this one, you lose the bird's eye rivet, and you have a fairly standard rivet. It's a bit of a shame, really, but there we are. It's pretty common on almost all others. I mean, like this. So I got JB sent me this. The Bushmaster. It's a Chinese made, like the Rough Riders, I suppose. But again, you still have the bird's eye rivet and a wooden cover. In terms of the blade shape, again, that's a fairly typical standard. As Case have the trademark on it. They use their blade to illustrate the blade shape. It's this fairly straight with a belly at the end. It's a slightly drop point. So it's probably would call it a drop point, but this is bull nose, which GC take to describe their knives. So they call it a bull nose, and that's fairly common amongst the various makers of these knives. So we have something fairly similar here in the Otter version. So I say, being originally a German pattern, these knives have better claim to the heritage, even if they're not covered under the trademark name. So as I say, this one was from Carl Sleeper, which is Solingen made. It's not the best knife in the world, actually. I mean, some of the fit and finish on this is pretty ropey. So much so that I was going to send it back, and I just never got around to it. The thing I quite like about the Carl Sleeper one is it has the eye brand, the all-seeing eye, which obviously reminds me of my Taylor's Eyewitness knives. This one, of course, has a little otter on it because it's a and here we have, oops, get it to focus, Solingen, Germany. If I could turn it over. Well, was worth waiting for, wasn't it? Nothing on the other side at all. Now, I believe this is a carbon steel blade, probably 1075 at a guess. I only say that because most Otter knives where they're stainless have the word Rossfrei in there, and the word Germany disappears. The scales are, I think, of sort of grenadille or Bibinga wood or something of that variety. It shines up quite nicely. It's reasonably well finished. The fit and finish to the stainless steel liners and spring are pretty good. Certainly for a working knife, and at this sort of price, they're pretty good. This one has a lanyard ring on it, which actually, for a working knife, I think is a pretty good idea. If I was working out in the field, I'd quite like the idea of a lanyard, so as to make sure I don't lose the thing. But a proper lanyard, not just one of these decorative things. So, there's a fairly basic, straightforward knife. And actually, what's one thing I forgot to say? There's a fairly stout build to it. Compared to the case is fairly stout, but this is rather stouter. Others are often quite a lot thinner. So again, if we wanted to use this as an actual working knife and not just as a collector's piece, you'd probably be happier with that in the hand than some of the skinnier ones. That's very small hands, of course. So that's quite nice. Now, in terms of recommendation for this, I would certainly recommend it as a user knife. It's, in a way, it's a bit rough and ready there. Bird's eye rivet stands proud and so on. Some of the wood finishing on this inside isn't perfect either, but as a working knife, I'd say it's great. My only slight concern is it's a little bit expensive. Now, if we were to compare it to the Bushmaster, it's exorbitantly expensive because the Bushmaster retails for $10 in the States, and quite often you can pick one up with on a 2-for-1. We used to be able to. I think that's pretty much sold out now. But so in effect, when JB was buying these by the dozen, they were $5, and you can't really complain with that. It's a 1095 steel blade. I don't know what the wood is on the handles, stainless steel, very good fit and finish actually. This one's taken quite a bit of oil because it was very, very dry. This one just didn't really need anything. It's just a little shine, and it was happy as Larry. So, but you could get 5 of these for one of these. So I would actually say, if you wanted a work knife to use, I would go for this. Obviously, if you don't want to buy Chinese, you're not going to get it for that. You're not going to get anything for that sort of price. You could get a case for the same money as this, but with your case, you've got, in this case, True Sharp Steel, or you could get their CV blades for the same sort of money. This here in the UK is about 2/3 of the price of this. So, one could argue that the case makes a better proposition. But if you wanted a homegrown, if you're European and you want a homegrown knife, you've got the Otter brand with the Solingen history, and the fact that this is the, has the true historical legacy, which, Case trademarked, but they didn't invent it. It's not really their heritage to trademark. My view, anyway. This has the heritage. This is the knife that's been used by Germans and Austrians for 300 years. So anyway, I'll leave it at that. This leads me into my next video, which is quite handy, but this is definitely the last of the Otters for just now. If you like this stuff, please give it a thumbs up, and if you want to see what's coming next, which is another Sodbuster, then please subscribe and remember to ring the bell if you would like notification of that. Okay, thanks very much. Bye.